Jeffrey Dahmer's murderous orgy is over. Throughout the trial that found him sane, grief-stricken families of the 15 men and boys Dahmer killed and mutilated held their peace. But today, before the sentencing, they had their day in court.
Did you ever stop to think that this is someone's brother, nephew, uncle, cousin, grandson, or just someone's friend?
I hope you can deal with what you've done. I'm trying hard to. You almost destroyed me, but I refuse to let you destroy me. I will carry on.
He destroyed the baby of the family, and I hope you go to hell.
Only the sister of Errol Lindsay was unable to contain her rage.
I don't want to ever see my mother have to go through this again.
After a brief recess, Dahmer addressed the court for the first time.
I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself. This was a case to tell the world that I did what I did not for reasons of hate. I hated no one. I knew I was sick or evil or both. Now I believe I was sick.
Though he accepted the blame for his barbaric crimes, cannibalizing, even crudely lobotomizing some of his victims, Dahmer nonetheless asked for forgiveness.
I should have stayed with God. I tried and failed and created a Holocaust. And if I could give my life right now to bring their loved ones back, I would do it. I am so very sorry. I deserve whatever I get because of what I have done.
Jeffrey Dahmer moved to Ohio with his family at age 6. In 1968, he was sexually molested by a neighbor boy in rural Bath Township. Unreported at the time, the childhood incident may play a pivotal role in understanding Dahmer's subsequent crimes. Likewise, the ferocious arguments between his parents, who later divorced, clearly demonstrated to Dahmer that home was no safe haven for a child. By age 10, Dahmer was experimenting with dead animals, decapitating rodents, bleaching chicken bones with acid, nailing a dog's carcass to a tree, and mounting its head on a stake. In June 1978, days after his graduation from high school, Dahmer crossed the line from morbid experimentations to murder. He was living alone at the time, his parents having separated and fled, neither one thinking to take Jeff along. His victim was hitchhiker Stephen Hicks, whom Dahmer took home for a drink and some laughs. When Hicks tried to leave, Dahmer crushed his skull with a barbell, strangled him to death, then dismembered and buried his corpse. That first slaying shocked Jeffrey back to a semblance of normality. He took a brief shot at college, then signed up for a 6-year term of military service, but the army discharged him after barely 2 years. Fed up with his heavy drinking, later speculations on his possible link to several unresolved murders in Germany committed while Dahmer was stationed there produced no concrete evidence. In 1982, he moved into his grandmother's house in West Allis, Wisconsin. That August, Dahmer logged an arrest for indecent exposure at the state fair. Identical charges were filed in September 1968 when 2 boys accused Dahmer of masturbating in public. Convicted of disorderly conduct in that case, he received a 1-year suspended sentence with orders for counseling. On September 15, 1987, Stephen Toomey vanished in Milwaukee. The mystery unresolved until Dahmer confessed to his murder in 1991. James Doxtador was the next to die in January 1988, followed by Richard Guerrero on March 24. By September 1988, Jeffrey's odd hours and the stench of his experiment had become too much for his grandmother, and he was asked to move out. On September 25th, he found an apartment on Milwaukee's North 25th Street. The next day, Dahmer lured a Laotian boy to his flat, fondled him, and offered cash for a nude modeling session. Police were called, and Dahmer was charged with sexual assault. Convicted in January 1989, he remained free pending a formal sentencing scheduled for May. Meanwhile, on March 25, Dahmer slaughtered victim Anthony Sears. Sentenced to 1 year in jail, Dahmer was released after serving 10 months. The death parade resumed with Edward Smith in June 1990. July's victim was Raymond Smith. Ernest Miller and David Thomas were butchered in September. Dahmer bagged Curtis Trotter in February 1991. Errol Lindsay joined the list in April, followed by Anthony Hughes in May. By that time, Dahmer had conceived the bizarre notion of creating zombies who would be his living sex toys, obedient to his every whim. Instead of using voodoo, Jeffrey opted for a more direct approach, drilling holes in the selected victim's skull, then dribbling caustic acid into the skulls in an effort to destroy the subject's conscious will. Needless to say, the weird approach to neurosurgery had a 100% failure rate, and none of Dahmer's favored patients survived. One almost got away. However, Conerak Sintasphone was a brother of the youth Dahmer molested in 1988, missing from home on May 16, 1991. He was seen the following day naked, dazed, and bleeding from head wounds. When neighbors reported his plight to Milwaukee police, officers questioned Dahmer, who described Conerak as his adult homosexual lover. And since Conerak spoke no English, they returned the youth to Dahmer's custody and to his death. When news of the blunder broke, following Dahmer's arrest on murder charges, the two parole men were briefly suspended from duty, then reinstated when they threatened civil suits against the city. The juggernaut rolled on. Mac Turner killed on June 30, Jeremiah Weinberger on July 7, Oliver Lacey on July 15, Joseph Branderhoft 4 days later. In addition to raping, murdering, and dismembering his victims, Dahmer also sampled cannibalism with at least one corpse. Though he denied it, Tracy Edwards was lucky, escaping from Dahmer's apartment on July 22 with handcuffs still dangling from one wrist. He flagged a squad car down and led police back to Dahmer's flat at the Oxford Apartments, where the dissected remains of 11 victims were found in acid vats and the refrigerator. In a touch of reminiscent of another Wisconsin necrophile, Dahmer had built a makeshift altar in his bedroom, decorated with candles and human skulls. By August 22, 1991, Dahmer had been charged with 15 counts of murder. At his trial, beginning on January 30, 1992, Dahmer filed a plea of guilty but insane. 2 weeks later, on February 15, jurors found him sane and responsible for his actions. The court imposed 15 consecutive life sentences, thus requiring Dahmer to serve a minimum of 936 years. He was subsequently charged with the Hicks murder in Ohio, but was never brought to trial. In prison, Dahmer refused offers of protective custody, despite the many threats against his life. On July 3, 1994, another convict tried to slash his throat in the prison chapel, but Dahmer emerged from the incident with only minor scratches and refused to press charges. 5 months later, on November 28, he was cleaning a bathroom adjacent to the prison gym when another member of the work detail, 25-year-old Christopher Scarver, grabbed an iron bar from a nearby exercise machine and smashed Dahmer's skull, killing him instantly. A second inmate, 37-year-old Jesse Anderson, was mortally wounded in the same attack, dying 2 days later. A racial motive was initially suspected in the murder since Carver, like many of Dahmer's victims, was black, but a closer look determined that the killer was deranged, believing himself to be the Son of God, acting out of his Father's command.